Yeah. Jason Gold began working in Los Angeles as an assistant at the KSGB agency before moving on to DreamWorks SKG and then becoming a literary coordinator at Artist International Management. Jason moved to New York in 2008, where he began working at AMC Television in the production department. He now serves as Vice President of Production, overseeing the day-to-day operations of AMC Network and AMC Studios scripted series, including The Walking Dead franchise and Better Call Saul. He was a production executive on the multiple Emmy and Golden Globe Award-winning series Breaking Bad and Mad Men, as well as The Killing, Rubicon, Low Winter Sun, Turn, Washington Spies, Halt and Catch Fire, and many other series, pilots, and web series. Jason is a member of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences and Hollywood Radio Television Society. He was selected to the inaugural HRTS Next Generation Committee in 2011, and Jason received the American University Rising Star Award in 2015. Please give a warm welcome to Jason Gold. Applause, applause, applause. Jason, we are so happy to have you here today in our virtual New York experience. Thank you for joining us. So let's take you back to your graduation day and give us a brief overview of your career path that took you to LA and working as an assistant at the KSGB agency.
Thank you. I love bios, by the way, because it makes it sound like I did all that stuff myself. And you know, if you ask my grandma, my parents, that is the case. It also leaves out the part that I moved back to New York in 2008 because it was during the writer's strike. I was broke and moved back in with my parents, but it makes it seem like I did it on purpose. So I'm gonna keep that bio going as is. So yeah, I graduated at U in 2005, and I had spent actually my summer in 2004 interning through, at the time, AU had a summer in LA program that Russell Williams ran. And I was out there with about, I think it was like 7 or 8 other AU students, a mix of undergrad and grad students. We all lived together in this like long-term housing complex in Marina Del Rey, which is pretty cool. And we had internships with, some of it was with AU alum, some wasn't, but we also had classes like twice a week where AU alum would come into like the conference room where we were staying and speak to us, or we would go to their offices, which was pretty cool. So we had meetings with people like Barry Josephson and Daniel Gelber and I'm sure all of the alumni that our guys always love to tout. And it was great. It was awesome. And I had 2 really good internships and met a lot of people that summer. And then when I graduated a year later, I used the connections that I had to get an interview right away at Kaplan Staller Agency, which represented writers and directors for TV, and got the job right away, which is awesome. So I like had my car shipped out and flew out there, and I have a cousin in LA and like stayed on their couch and just like started working right away. And I stayed there for about a year, really developed an interest in TV production as far as like the business side goes for writers and directors. Before then, like in college, I had mostly been interested in feature films. And so when I got the opportunity after about a year to get a job as an assistant at DreamWorks, I jumped on it because it was DreamWorks, like hell yeah. But also features, yay. So I did that for a year and realized that I actually preferred TV. I found that the culture on the feature side, at least in my opinion, was a little more of like the very like stereotypical cutthroat Hollywood. I didn't find people to be as nice. And I think a lot of that was just due to the fact that like when you're at a movie studio, you're making like 2 or 3, 4 movies a year, and like they take forever and it's a whole thing. Whereas on the TV side, you're like constantly making stuff. You have air dates, you have episodes. It's just like there's just more to do. And I think that that just appealed to me more. So I left DreamWorks, and a friend and I started a management company. We represented some of our friends who were writers, directors, actors, comedians, some of whom have gone on to much success. Of course, like now, not when I represented them. But, we did okay. And then during the writer's strike in 2008 was when everybody stopped working. So I ended up moving back home to New York, but I found a job at AMC Television, which at the time had just aired the first seasons of Mad Men and Breaking Bad, and was, becoming a bit of a thing. And they were like one of the only New York-based companies, and they were really looking for people with LA experience who like knew people in LA, who knew agents and all that stuff. So I got the interview and got the job immediately, which is awesome that I had the LA experience. And now I've been there for almost 13 years. So I started out as the production department coordinator, and then I've worked my way up over the years. And yeah, it's been great. About 3 years into it, I helped form AMC Studios. At the time, we were just we were airing mostly licensed shows with partners. With Mad Men, we were partnered with Lionsgate. Breaking Bad, we were partnered with Sony. And then when we greenlit The Walking Dead in 2010, we had to create our entire studio infrastructure from the ground up. So I was there at the time, and we were able to put all the pieces together. And that's still what we do now. Is as AMC Studios, we produce most of our projects ourselves. The only thing we don't produce ourselves really is Better Call Saul, because it's a legacy deal from the original Breaking Bad Sony agreement.
So how much change are you seeing due to COVID-19? How much do you think is going to continue even after we're back to whatever our new normal is? And how are things moving forward for you all in this COVID experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously taken over literally every aspect of our business. Personally, I haven't been in my office in almost a year. I haven't been able to go to set. I normally fly around quite a bit, and we've been keeping that all on the, not happening. We hired an epidemiologist to consult with us and created like a COVID task force, and worked with all the unions to really come up with a way to shoot. And it's very expensive because it involves lots of testing and lots of PPE. And I'd say one of the lasting effects that's probably going to happen is that we had to change our shooting style. Normally we shoot 12-hour days, 12-hour days. And we've now shifted to 10-hour days, which is actually really interesting because it's created a bit of a problem in the way that American television is set up. So I think that's going to be a lasting thing, but our system is not set up for that. Like the way that directors get paid and things like that, they're based more on 8-day episodes. So we're now paying more money to extend the span of everybody. Same for the writers and anybody who gets paid weekly. All of a sudden you've added, several months onto the span of a series. So it's created a lot of problems because our system wasn't set up for that. Whereas in the UK, for instance, they shoot fortnights, which is 10-hour day episodes.
What do you think the most dramatic thing has shifted in terms of filming on sets? Like, what is a normal, typical day now with COVID?
It's changed completely. Zone maps, we've created zones that people have to be in order to prevent the spread. So for instance, we have a zone A, B, and C. A zone includes the actors and the people that are directly in contact with the actors. The actors are obviously two things. One, the only people on set that cannot wear PPE while they're working. And two, if one of them goes down, everybody gets shut. That's it, right? We also have health and safety. It's become an entire department on the shows. And the biggest downside is probably just the lack of interpersonal, creativity and to be able to just like anything else, be able to interact with other people directly more than 6 feet apart.
And because of this, you've got health and safety and all these new folks that you've had to bring on and hire. Has that eliminated other positions?
It has not, which is one of the reasons why the costs have gone up, exponentially. So what we were doing was we were matching up health professionals with production professionals to create sort of like a co-head of each team. So we have what's called an HSS, which is like the medical professional, and the HSM, which is the health safety manager, and the two of them co-run the department.
How hard did you find it to transition from each place you worked? And like, what skills did you find were consistent or different that you needed for each workplace and culture?
It's a good question. One of the unique things about our business is that it's very common for people to move around. Right. It's like I've been at AMC for almost 13 years, which is extremely uncommon. the ability to sort of like move to a new job every 2 years or so is just something that's in like the lifeblood of our business, especially on the exec side, like the production execs and creative execs and that sort of stuff. You join a company and you put all, everything in, but you're always sort of wondering what the next thing is. But it's all about experience, right? Because when you're working at an agency, you learn about how an agency works. So then when you go to work at a studio and you're dealing with agencies, you know what's happening inside those agencies. And then when you go to work at a network, you know what's happening inside those studios and those agencies.
I keep hearing that in order to kind of get a job, it's all about who you know. I was wondering if in your experience, that's true to what happened to you or what you've experienced. And if so, or if not, how do you recommend getting your foot in the door?
It would be harder for me to find a job where I didn't know somebody at a company or something now. But when you're first starting, I don't think anybody expects you to like know everybody at the company or like have a lot of connections. You could utilize the AU network. But it's a lot of just like cold emailing, hitting up HR, keeping your LinkedIn set. Because you don't really need any experience for those jobs, for those entry level jobs. As an assistant, if you want to go that route, or as a PA. As a PA, you're not working at a studio or something, you're working on set somewhere. And that's just a matter of getting into the local film community. So it's really just about hustling to get your first job, and then it does blossom and balloon a little bit from there. But getting your first job, yeah, I mean, everybody's path is different.
How have you and the people at AMC, for example, taken the initiative to create and share stories that are unseen or misrepresented?
That's a great question. And, it's certainly something that is, more in the forefront of everybody's minds these days. And, our development team is really working with a lot of diverse voices. They always have, but they, certainly put a finer point on it now. I like to point to a show that we did last year called The Terror, the second season of The Terror, which was specifically, it was about Japanese Americans during World War II. It took place in it was a horror story, but it was historically accurate. It took place in the camps and everything. George Takei was in it. It was amazing. And that felt like a story that needed to be told and not told often. We try to tell those stories, behind the camera as well, right? So we have a lot of female showrunners that we're very proud of, and have for a long time. Actually, there was a point, I guess it was a few years ago, when we had The Killing on the air. We had, I think, the most female showrunners in, per the amount of shows that we had, which was really awesome. So yeah, I mean, we're constantly trying to do that.
What is your favorite part about working at AMC?
There's a lot of things I love about AMC. I like that it's a small enough company where I feel like my individual voice is heard, and I'm not just a cog in the machine like a lot of the larger companies. It's very much it has a family feel for a company. We're owned majority owned now at the moment by a single family, and it's a New York-based company, and everybody is very not very Hollywood, I would say, not very LA. And I like that we're willing to take chances on stuff. We make a lot of really cool things. The fact that it's a small company, so we're very hands-on with everything. Through the course of a day, I'm talking to, the people on the ground on every show, almost, not plus our internal people like marketing and legal and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you really feel like you have your hands in everything, which I really like.
Is there anything you wish you would learn before you start your career in college?
There is a lot. I studied visual media, and my minor was in history just because I love history. But what I did not take any classes in, really, other than whatever the standard macroeconomics was business. And understanding business is a huge part of understanding the business, being entertainment business, because it is a business. Especially with my personally being interested on the business side of Hollywood, as opposed to like being a director or a writer. which was never something that I really wanted to do. I feel like I was at a bit of a disadvantage and kind of learned along the way about how the business of the business works. So that's kind of where I feel like my weak point was coming in, and I wish I had taken more business classes.
Could you maybe tell us a little bit more about that first internship you got, or the first 2 internships in LA? Because it seemed like you really got most of your networking connections from there. Like, how did you get it? Like, what was it called, I guess, all that.
Sure. When I signed up for the Summer in LA program, so that was summer 2004, I had, at the time, there was something called the Hollywood Creative Directory, which is like a website. Now you can just use like IMDb Pro or something. But it was like a directory of different production companies and stuff with like who worked there and what their phone numbers were and their addresses. So I used the Hollywood Creative Directory, and I literally cold called production companies. It was like, hey, I'm coming out to LA. I'm a film student looking for an intern this summer for free. And that was it. Like I set up the dates, and I was at one place 2 days a week, and I was at the other place 3 days a week. And just kind of met as many people as I could while I was doing it. Like, there were other interns there too who were doing the same thing as me that were from other places. And we kind of created a network. Once you're in it, you're kind of like immersed in it, and you just kind of sponge up everything. And then through just meeting all of those people and keeping in touch with them, when I went back to finish my last year of college, I started emailing everybody and like, hey, I'm coming out. Does anybody know of anything?
What challenges did you face early on in your career, and what do you face today, kind of COVID craziness aside?
I think the thing that I faced earliest on was lack of success at you first starting, right? Because you just want to be successful. Like, I'm in Hollywood, I want to be successful. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little while. So I think that was probably the most challenging thing, was just kind of like managing expectations, being patient, while also, being aggressive enough to constantly get my next job without being annoying, which is, be aggressive without being annoying. That's a really important one. Yeah, that was definitely the biggest challenge, I think, at first, was trying to figure it all out. And now it's just a matter of juggling sort of life and work.
So I just had a question in that regard of how tumultuous the industry can be. How do you manage that?
Like in any career, there's going to be ups and downs, but there are lots of opportunities, mostly in LA, when you sort of immerse yourself in the business, to find things. It may not be the thing that you want, but like you could still work in the business and have a career, have a job while you're like trying to get on to the next thing. Maybe you don't want to work in animation, but an animation job came up. Like, okay, get in there, get the job, and, keep looking for the next thing, or, work as a PA or work as anything, to kind of just stay in the business as long as you can while you're looking for the thing that you really want to do.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks so much for being our guest on the New York Virtual Experience.